We are going to look at simplifying radicals. So here are the parts of the radical. Go ahead and copy that down. So the index is the little number inside the check mark part of the radical. If there is no index, it's automatically a 2, which means square root. So when we're talking about simplifying radicals, we are also talking about square roots or cube roots or fourth roots. But today, we are only talking about square roots when there is no number inside the index. So you have your coefficient that's out front. Your radicand is inside, and this entire radical, it includes the index and what's inside. We are going to simplify square roots today. So we are not dealing with any other indexes today, just square roots. So we are going to start out by making a list of square roots. The great thing is you don't have to memorize this. You just have to know how to find your square roots in the calculator. The way you do that is by going to y equals and putting in x squared. And then you look at the table. So that's what we're going to do. So with your calculator, I'm going to clear out my memory. So I start with a fresh calculator. And I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to put in x squared. The square button is right here beside the comma. X squared. Second graph for the table. Did y'all see that? Second graph for the table. See how that's in blue? We're going to list out all the perfect squares. I'm going to write this as x, and this is x squared. And I'm going to make a list. But I'm going to start with 1 and fill in the table. So 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. So that's coming from here. So go ahead and pause the video and fill in your table. And I'm going to fill in mine. So you fill in the table according to your squareds. So remember, squared is it times itself. So 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. So this is a special list of perfect squareds. And the right side is the square root of that number. So square root of 225 is 15. Okay, so what we are going to do is simplify. So let's start with the first one, square root of 16. So I'm going to put that in. I'm going to hit second quit. So that's right here. There's second mode to get out from there and go to the home screen. So second square root is the opposite of squaring something. So they're actually the same button in the calculator, you just hit the blue. So square root of 16. I want to do this first before I start simplifying. That equals 4. So since it equals 4, this is a perfect square. If it is not a perfect square, then we need to find a perfect square that can easily divide the number inside the radical. So you can actually use your calculator to find your factors, because some of us can't or maybe don't know all of our radicals and all of our factors. So we can use our calculator to help us. So what we're going to do is, we already have our perfect square list. Let's find our factor list. To find your factor list is you go to y equals and you put in whatever that number is divided by x. Don't use the square root, just the number. So I'm going to go to y equals, clear out what I have, and put 75 divided by x. See how I did not put the square root? I did not put the radical. And this, whenever you go to second graph for the table, it's going to give you all of your factors. I'm going to go down the list on the y side and ask myself, is this on the perfect square list? Perfect square list is the right side of this list here. So 75. Oh, what I should have done first is go back to your home screen, do your square root of 75. Okay, we know it's not a perfect square. So let's hit second graph. Now look on the right side for the perfect squares. So I'm going to ask myself, is 75 on the list? So I'm going to look, okay, nope. That's a decimal, it's not going to be on the list. 25, is 25 on the list? Yes. So it's 25 times 3 is 75. So I'm going to rewrite this as the factors, but keep the radicals. So square root of 25 times square root of 3. And where I got the 3 was what matches with 25. And 25 times 3 is 75. Then I take the square root of the perfect square. What's the square root of 25? If you look at your list, it's 5. So now this is 5 square root of 3. So 5 square root of 3 and square root of 75, they are equivalent. So hit second, quit. Square root, oh no, I need to put in 5 square root of 3. And see how they're the exact same decimal number? Okay, so we're done. Okay, let's go to square root of 28. So let's go ahead and put that in the home screen. Square root of 28, 5.29 something. So now we want to find the factors of 28 and find the perfect square that factors this evenly. Go to y equals, clear out what's in there, do 28 divided by x. Then go to your table, and you're going to work down your y equals list and see what's the perfect square. 28, so I'm going to start around here. No 28, no 14, that's a decimal, so no. 7, no. Decimal, decimal. 4. 4 is on the perfect square list. It's 4 times 7. So I can rewrite this as square root of 4 times square root of 7. And then I go ahead and find out what is the square root of 4. Looking at my table, it's 2. So now I can write this as 2 square root of 7. So I want to make sure that they are equivalent. So second, quit, go back to the home screen and put in 2 square root of 7. And it is. It's equal. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh, this has a coefficient up front. So let's put that in 2 square root of 32. Okay, it's not a whole number, so we're going to have to break it down. So I'm not going to put in 2. I'm only going to put in 32 divided by x into y equals to find those factors. So I want a factor of 32 that's on the perfect square list. So look at 32 is not a perfect square, but 16 is. So we got to keep our 2. Then we're going to do our perfect square, which is 16, and it's 16 times 2, so I'm going to write times square root of 2. And then which is our perfect square? It's the 16, so let's go ahead and find out what the square root of 16 is. Well, if we look at our list, it's 4. Carry down the 2, so it's 2 times 4 square root of 2. Okay, go ahead and multiply 2 times 4. 8. Carry down square root of 2. And we're done. So we do want to make sure that that's the same. So hit second, quit. I've already put that in. Let's put in 8 square root of 2. And it is. They're the same number. Okay, next one, 4 square root 48. Okay, it looks like that. So we know it's not a perfect square, so we're going to go to y equals. Only put in the 48 divided by x to find our factors. I'm looking for a factor of 48 that's on the perfect square list. So 48 is not on the perfect square list. 24, I'm going to move up. Nope. 16 is. So I'm going to carry down the 4 and then square root of 16. And it is times 3. 16 times 3 is 48. So that's why I write times square root of 3. Now carry down the 4. Square root of 16 is 4. So times 4, square root of 3. 4 times 4 is 16. Carry down the square root of 3. So it's 16 square root 3. Same answer. Okay, so these are your notes. You do need to keep them out so that you can look at your perfect squares. Let's look at the assignment now. I did have one mistake on the assignment. So this is what the assignment looks like. There's one mistake down here. This should be a negative. So make sure you fix that. It's at the bottom. Okay, so let's start with square root of 20. I'm going to skip square root of 32. You can do that one on your own. Square root of 20. So I'm going to put it in the home screen. Square root 20. 4.47. Okay, I need to find the factors of 20. So go to y equals. Put in 20 divided by x. Go to your table, find one of the factors that's on the perfect square list. Here's my perfect square list. 20, 10, not a decimal, 5, 4. 4 is a perfect square. So I'm going to rewrite this as square root of 4 times square root of 5. What is the square root of 4? Look on the square root list. It's 2. So this would be 2 square root of 5. Okay, to double check my answer, I'm going to hit second quit and go 2 square root 5. And that is it. So we did it correctly. So now the way that you check your answer is your answer should be somewhere in here. You're going to color it the same way that this is colored in or shaded in. So 2 square root of 5. So we're going to go and look. Oh, it's right here. So it looks like it has a full box and a triangle. Okay. So you'll end up with a completed picture once you're done. You do have to show your work. Okay, I'm going to do one more with you. Square root of 288. All right, so let's go ahead and put it in the home screen. Square root of 288. Okay, it's not a perfect square at 16.97. So we need to find our factors of 288. The way we do that is go to y equals, put in 288 divided by x, and then look at our table. We're going to go down the list because we want the largest perfect square. So I'm going to start with 288. It's not a perfect square, which we didn't get close enough to 288. But because I took 288 and took the square root and it was a decimal, it's not a perfect square. Let's go to the next one. 144. That is on the list. If you went down the list and you were like, 36 is it, and then you ended up with something that did not come out as an answer over here, that means that you could have taken the larger number. And you should. You have to simplify it all the way down. So take the largest perfect square. So in this case, it's 144. So we would write this as square root of 144 times 144 times 2. And what's the square root of 144? It's 12. So this is 12 square root of 2. Once you take the square root, you no longer have the radical. Okay, let's just make sure that this is the same answer. So I'm going to do 12 square root 2. Oh, I put in the wrong thing. 12 square root 2. There we go. All right, and they are the same. So we're going to color this the same way. Let's see, 12 square root of 2. So if you don't find your answer, then that means that you didn't simplify it all the way. So this one is a sideways triangle. So that's how I'm going to shade it. Okay, you're going to do as many as you can within class and turn it in today.